name is Jamie. I live in Saudi Arabia and I have a makeup collection that just keeps getting larger. It didn't today, but it may soon. Sorry. So today what I wanted to talk about is that spring is just around the corner. And I have a feeling that we're going to be seeing a lot of palettes come out very soon. There have been a couple that have dropped, namely the Oden's eye palettes and also the Cosmic Brushes palette. All of those are super beautiful. I'm waiting for that Cosmic Brushes palette to restock and I'm gonna buy it. But I wanted to take a look back, and I also wanted to kind of show a particular color. Now, I wonder if you can guess. So my feeling is that green is like a gateway color. Green is my personal favorite color. I enjoy wearing it probably the most. Secondarily, like purple. I really do like a purple neutral, something like that. But really, I feel like wearing green is an acceptable way to kind of put some color into your workplace look. So I wanted to talk about some palettes today that are gonna help you accomplish maybe putting a little color and spice into your day-to-day look. You don't have to go as hard as I did today, that we know, but if you like green, if you like indie eyeshadow palettes, and if you like eyeshadow in general, stick around for a minute. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm a nice lady, let's talk. Okay, so first things first, I'm gonna get 3 palettes out of the way that I have, but have since been discontinued and I cannot find them anywhere. I'm sure they exist on the internet somewhere where you can purchase them, but they are not readily available. So the one, like, especially, like, that's more mainstream is this Huda Beauty Emerald Obsessions palette. I'm sure this has been discontinued, but it is still really beautiful. It has existed in my collection for quite some time now, and it is gorgeous. It is lovely. And it is an all green palette. It works really, really well. This is a very beautiful shade. Why not swatch it? I'll swatch it for you. Huda has had a bad reputation in the past for her like smaller palettes being not that great quality. This one was great. It was nice. It was fun to work with. I enjoy it. I still have it. And I don't plan on getting rid of it anytime soon. The next one is from Colourpop. This is from the Disney collaboration with Tinkerbell. This is Sprinkle a Little Magic. I don't love this palette, if I'm being honest. It arrived with a big gouge out of the shade Awake. Is that it? Yep, Awake. And then it does have a couple of fun shades. This shade Sleep is just a really nice grass green sort of thing. But I'm gonna give you an alternative to this palette if you really want this color story in your collection and you're missing it, and you feel that you've missed out, just hang on. I'll show you. It's not my favorite. I don't think the quality is that good, to be fair. Okay, this hurts and I'm sad. This palette is only a year old, but this is the Gila palette from Oden's Eye. It's in collaboration with Angelica Nyqvist. And this is a very unique palette. I think it's very, very beautiful. And it has, again, kind of that nice grass green color. I've used it recently. It's just a nice overall green palette. Obviously this row and this row are not green, but it pairs really nicely together. So I'm sorry if you missed out on this. I'm sure it exists somewhere on the internet, but it's not available for purchase. I will give you an alternative though. So the first palette that I want to talk about is a cute little palette from Oden's Eye. This is the Earthy mini eyeshadow palette. And it is not a completely green palette, although this is a very like interesting plummy shade that you can use to darken up your whole look. This is a beautiful shade. What is this? I think this is Memory. No, this is Luxury. I'm sorry. And yeah, it's a black based, very dark green shade. Really super pretty. And I enjoy this palette. I have not used it super recently, but like more recently than you would think. And I believe it's $20, something like that. It's available. I don't know if it's a permanent collection or a permanent item, but if you're into a small palette that's easy to travel with, this is a great option. Okay, The next one is probably potentially my favorite Colourpop palette ever, and that is the Child palette. And this is a super cute color story, really nice to work with. I love this palette. I think it's super cute. And this right hand Mando shade is very comparable actually to the Emerald Obsessions shade that I liked. So if you're really hurting for something like that, then I think this would be a nice alternative, or partially a nice alternative. It is a little bit grungier, but I love this palette. I've purchased this palette for my friend as a gift. Again, not an obligate palette, like not an obligate green palette, but certainly a very nice one, is the Nouveau palette from ABH. This released and is still available like within the last spring, something like that. Again, this is a very nice spring palette, I would say. There is Wings. Again, kind of a similar, no, my balance are falling. A similar shade to the one I liked in the Emerald Obsessions palette and the Colourpop palette. I just seem to really like that shade. It is a little bit different on my hand, but on the eyes, I don't think you could see a difference. I also really like the shade Hope. This is nice. I'll just swatch it for you. My hand. Oh my God. So this is kind of a more grungy khaki color, but certainly this palette is very, very wearable for like work, every day. If you are kind of wanting to experiment with a little bit more color, but you're not quite sure how to do it, this is a great place to start. However, if I were to say so, I think this is a better option for the price. This is just an overall good palette. Both are good. Try them. I think both are very work appropriate, or can be made to be work appropriate. Okay, so this is an investment piece, and I'm not sure how I feel about it these days. Just knowing what I know now, but also, I don't know. I'm happy to have it, but it is the Melt Gemini palette. It is very, very beautiful. And again, this does kind of cross that bridge into work appropriate land, where you have these neutral colors. Everyone really likes this mustardy shade. It's called Lorelei, but you do have kind of these really nice green tones to work with and something to darken up with. And this is an investment piece. It is $58. It is still available, but I think you could probably find an alternative that is a little bit less expensive. But if you're into Melt and you like the brand and you're interested in the brand, this is a nice palette. I wish there were some slightly better, I wish there were some slightly like different shimmer shades, maybe some different textures. I tend to agree with the analysis that Melt was innovative at one time, but has kind of slipped behind at this point in terms of its like creativity. However, like I said, this is a beautiful palette, and I'm glad to have it. It's just expensive. Okay, I've gone on ad nauseum about this palette, and this is the East Emerald palette from BPerfect, and this is kind of what I'm talking about. I think you could get something like this, and it would be somewhat comparable and more green to the Gemini palette. Like, I really enjoy this shade and this Avo shade. I'll swatch it for you. I love this shade. It's a great matte. First of all, do you see that? It's so cute. And the way I use this palette is not for the shimmer. There's one shimmer shade. I've gone on about this, and you know. If you're new here, I have gone on about this. Sorry, I'm not talking about it anymore. But I would utilize this in conjunction with another palette with slightly better shimmers or duochromes, which I will get into in just a moment. But the mattes in this palette are beautiful, and they're very easy to work with. And like I said, it gives me all of the like grungy greenness that I really, really like in my mattes. So this is a good option. It's also not as expensive as, say, Gemini. You know what I mean? Another very affordable, very nice option is the Beauty Bay Earthy palette. And this is only 75 Real, and I wore it the other day. And this is what I'm talking about with like where I feel Gemini falls a little bit flat, is that there are some really interesting shimmer shades in this palette. For example, Lime. It is extremely lime colored. So I'll swatch it. Oh, that's kind of covering one shade. But the mattes are also super nice to work with. And do you see that? It's so pretty. There's a lot of shades in this palette that I really, really enjoy, both matte and shimmer. So you can get the 42 pan. I don't recommend the 42 pan. This is a 16 pan. And I think this has everything that one could want, in my opinion. And also the price is grand. The price is right. So this is an example of a palette that is not a standalone palette, but you could use in conjunction with something like this. And it's gonna give you all of the interest and intrigue you could ever want. This is the Dancing in the Sky palette from Gloss Gods. Super beautiful, super, super beautiful. And I mean, like, I'm just sitting here turning this palette around and look at all the different colors that it's turning. It's beautiful. So let's talk about, like, say, I don't know, Solar Wind. Solar Wind is this shade. And do you see that on my finger? This is technically a green palette, and then it'll take on whatever shade is next to it. Oh my God. But see, this will go to like green to lavender. Beautiful, beautiful palette. I love this palette. I love eyeshadow. Can't get enough of eyeshadow. But for a palette like that, you can pair it with something like this with some good sturdy mattes and just have a good time. Have a good old time. I'm not exaggerating. I said this in another video. I was wearing this palette on my eyes and I had just like one of the duochromes put all across my lid, and someone stopped me at work and was like, "What do you have on your eyes? I can't." And I was like, I know, right? It's so pretty. Okay. So this is somehow still available. This is from BH Cosmetics, and this is what I'm talking about. You could get this palette and it would easily function within your collection as well, if not maybe a bit better than, I can't get it open. Ugh. This palette could easily function the same as Sprinkle a Little Magic in your collection if you wanted it. This is somehow available on sale right now for $10.50. It's pretty. I like the palette. I don't use it because I don't need it. I mean, the shimmers are pretty nice. BH mattes are super, super nice, I will say. The shimmers, meh. The mattes, great. You can't go wrong. And I would also say that this Over It shade is much better than the darkest shade in Sprinkle a Little Magic, the Awake shade, yeah. So you have an alternative. You don't have this palette and you're just dying to have it, this is a good alternative. And it's so cheap right now. This is the palette that I'm wearing today on my eyeballs. And I mentioned in my short that this is an underrated palette in general and also within my own collection. But every time I get it out, I'm like, dang, this is nice. The shimmers are not amazing, but again, it does have kind of this grass green shade. It is available on Beauty Bay. It is marked down. I believe it's 5% off. It's not available on the Made by Mitchell website, so that makes me feel like it's going to be discontinued eventually. If you're interested in it, now would be a good time to get it. I would also hypothesize, based on just looking at it, you could kind of not dupe, but get a similar vibe to this palette with this palette. So it has some purples, it has some warm shades. There are some similarities. You're obviously not gonna get the duochromes. That's just the way it is. But if you wanted kind of a similar vibe, a good quality shadow, I think this is a good one. And yeah, I'm surprised at how good it is every time I use it, and I just don't think about using it. It's a bit big, that's kind of my thing. Also on the bit big side of life is the Antidote palette from BPerfect, and this has some really beautiful grungy green shades as well. Ignore this whole side, but this third of the palette is really beautiful. And this is why I say that, like, green can be your gateway to Colorland. Like, this is a much more neutral palette than what she usually does. And these grungy greens are so freaking nice, like greens and yellows, grungy greens and yellows. I love that so much on my eyes. You may or may not know that, but I love grungy yellow and green all over my eyes. I love it all the time. Okay, last one. And if you're offended, avert your eyes. So this is the Blood Money palette from Jeffree Star Cosmetics. And I do really enjoy this palette. Again, it has some of these like neon shades that I really like. There are some things that are a bit different. I really like this Money Heist shade, and I'll swatch it. It doesn't have anything that I couldn't replicate in a different palette. So that's to say, like, if I really wanted a duochrome, I would go to Gloss Gods. If I really wanted a matte that was going to be really nice, I have other mattes. But overall, this is a good palette. I do like this palette. And if you are interested in this palette but you don't want to support this brand, that is understandable. I have some alternatives. Also right now, BH Cosmetics has the Absinthe palette available, and I think that that is very similar in just kind of tone and vibe and would kind of give you a similar experience. So if you've missed out on this palette, you don't want to support this brand, then for $10.50 you can support this brand. So that's my 2 cents. I will list all of these palettes in the comments, and I am going to link all of the websites and all the places where you can go buy them. I think right now is a great time to go buy some palettes if you're interested. A lot of them are on sale, so check them out. Check them out if you're interested. Thank you for watching, and yeah, tell me what more you'd like to see. Let's talk about it. Okay? I'll see you later. Bye.